November 2024. It's 9 a.m. and we are at the Aquarium Education Center located at 706 Navigation Circle, Rockport, Texas, 78382. And I call this workshop to order. Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Here.
Commissioner Castleline.
Here.
Commissioner Russo. Here. Commissioner Dutnick.
Here.
Judge Garza.
Here, we've got a full court. And I want to thank the commissioners for being here. At this time, we'll hear from citizens to be heard. Anybody sign up?
Jeff, I put it on your desk.
Oh, did he? Oh,
Sorry to take up y'all's time on this. I'm here because last meeting I was disparaged and some things were said by me, and I felt like I needed to publicly show up and address some. So ever since the school board unanimously voted Judge Garza to replace Jack Wright as school board president, Mr. Wright has suffered from Garza derangement syndrome. As you recall, he started the Aransas Values Fraud Pact to attack Judge Garza, ended up doing it to the same with Commissioner Dupkit during his election bid. When I exposed the corruption that went on with the sale of Little Bay Primary, he turned his eye on me. What y'all know, there's more to the story than even y'all know. Now that I'm on the CAD board, it's only logical that he's attacking my participation. I've already uncovered procurement and open meetings act violations. I turned in a report to the sheriff's office, a complaint with the documentation. I will leave that with the court if anybody wants to look at it. And conflicts of interest, same as the sell Little Bay Primary and shady property purchases while he was chairman on the board. To talk about some of these things. Y'all voted for me. It was not a consent agenda. Commissioner Russo asked that it be pulled out for the agenda. I was here to open questions and answer. I told Judge Garza that my goal was to work with Mr. Soto. If you ask him, he will tell you this. Politically, it's better for the judge. And also, I would have liked Mr. Soto to clean up his mess than us have to do what we're now and go back and put all this pressure on Ray Presley. There has been absolutely no Open Meetings Act violation. I knew that they would be coming after me, my participation on the board. So I made sure I do my own agendas. I make sure our meetings are correct. And I did this because our meeting minutes were wrong. And so was our agendas. I felt like they weren't. JP Mosier told me that he had left and there was no ill towards anyone when he left. I think Judge Garza has an email maybe confirming this. I've never bullied Mr. Soto. If you think that like asking for accountability, following the law, treating taxpayers respectively, and knowing your budget, if you're asking your chief administrator to know these things is bullying, I mean, that's not what I consider it. My interaction with women, Mr. Wright has attacked me. I think this is a standard operating procedure that he does to attack people. I've dealt with a lot of females around the courthouse. Y'all know how I act. Kathy Henderson, who he brought up, is my sister's friend. Kathy talks to me only in a way that somebody's big sister's friend can talk to you. We were within the law when we went into executive session to talk to our lawyer about employment under on the employment section of the Open Meetings Act. The only meetings that have been broadcasted on the internet on our YouTube page for 2024 are the meetings that were in the educational center themselves. Any meetings that took place at the appraisal district are not on. I'll make sure that happens. Miss Austin was the one who wanted to have zero raises, zero bonuses across the board. That wasn't me. I did go along with it, of course, but that was not my forward. And the idea that I didn't want to pay comp time is absolutely false. I was the commissioner who we were brought comp time this year for the first time. I was the commissioner who actually addressed it and tried to set up a process by which we can pay people comp time. We have some individuals that have 80 days comp time. And so I was the one who actually addressed on getting people their money. Mr. Wright seems to have it out for me. I mean, I understand why he does. And I hope that y'all understand that his perspective, that why he comes and he says the things he does. So I have 40 more seconds. I want to say, I'm helping Representative Hunter out with property tax reform. I worked with the Navigation District a little bit last year when they went up, the last time they went up to the state legislature. I do stuff on DC now, but anything I could help in any way to help press forward any of the issues that y'all have, that y'all decide that you would like to see come about this year, y'all have my full help, and I'd like to do that. So thank you for your time.
Alright. There was just one? All right. All right, we're gonna move on to why we're here. Items for deliberation or discussion, and I call this meeting basically to provide the commissioners an opportunity to voice and discuss our legislative priorities, and not just commissioners, but elected officials too, and people in Aransas County. Discuss our legislative priorities for the upcoming 2025 legislative session. So we've got a couple here. I want to start with you, if it's okay, with your idea about the EOC.
Okay. But I have a question. Have you talked to like TAG or, you know, and I would say the one that I brought up and the thing I suggested is we're told that a quorum of commissioners can't be in the EOC. I personally, when I read it, I don't interpret it that way, but I thought it would be nice if we could get that put on the list of places that a quorum can be present. And TAC will usually, something that will affect every county, TAC will usually carry it. If it's a specific to one county, they normally won't do it, and you have to hire, either do it yourself or hire a lobbyist.
Okay.
And there might be other instances on there, but that's the one that we've run into here that, you know, to me in a disaster, it's important that everybody's informed, and
Right.
we don't really have the power to make a decision, and there it's you and the mayor. And that's part of the definition of, to me, I don't know. I think the definition of a meeting is pretty simple when you're meeting, but not to everybody, I guess.
During that time, I did contact my TAC rep, and they said it's okay to have the commissioners in there during the EOC meeting. But their TAC at the very end, when they give you some advice, they say, but consult with your county attorney first. And so, of course, our assistant county attorney was telling us that it wasn't, which is why I had to kick a couple out, but
It would certainly have been a good thing if all the commissioners could have been there, because we were all affected. Fortunately, Commissioner Cashel was so versed in it, but we were even limited in the ability to talk to you, to the judge, or to Commissioner Cashel. The idea is excellent. We need to be able to get in there, and we need to declare a public meeting to be going on anytime, and I realize that you can't have 20,000 people in there at one time.
No, somebody suggested that. I don't think there's any way you're gonna get where you can declare a public meeting. I think if you have an exemption in the law, just like there's a short list of things that are exempt for a quorum to be at without being called that. I mean, I think it's just a clarification, because if they represent most of the counties in the state and that's their interpretation, that must be, maybe we're the only state that our county attorney has that opinion.
right.
Only county that has it.
So
But that would be a really good idea.
yeah, I'll work with our representative, and if anything, I mean, they say the law, it's already there that allows it, but maybe to either clarify the law or create an exemption.
Yeah, had a disaster been declared already at that point when that meeting was started?
Yes, by the governor. I think the governor,
I think
yeah.
when the governor's order of disaster, it suspends some of those laws.
Yeah.
That's what allowed for emergency meetings, because right after Harvey, we had the commissioners court meeting and what was left of the courthouse, and was.
Let's,
Maybe. Just, come on, show up.
Yeah.
right,
Well, the court, I mean, we're not decision makers in there. We're just,
Right.
I'm not on it, I'm just there because I'm the judge, pro tem, the judge, and the two mayors are actually the ones that we might vote to pay for things like cleanup and stuff like that, but, and we have contracts with those people, but that's not something, they don't choose who we use for cleanup in the EOC, it's.
Right, those contracts have already been
But
negotiated.
still for information purposes, we need to be there.
Yeah, I agree. So, yes, sir.
Big Pedro. Back on that, about when we have these like pathway meetings or stormwater committee meetings, we're not voting members, we're there to get information. And I think that's, a lot of times we have our own constituents at some of these meetings and we can't hear what they say because we're, basically prevented from being available to them. They make comments here in those meetings.
Actually, TAG clarified that as long as it's publicly posted, that it'll be a public meeting and there may be a quorum of commissioners, they are allowed to attend.
That's what I'm
It's just that our former assistant county attorney did not like that, but TAG clarified that yes, we can.
Farmer,
But an EOC is not a public
Jen.
is it?
okay.
No,
No,
she's talking about
no.
committees.
But just addressing that one.
And that has, so it has been clarified, right?
Yes.
But we can't do that.
Right.
Well, I don't know, my understanding of it, yeah, you can be there, but when you talk, that's probably when you violate that.
Well, last time I was at, they asked me something, I didn't say a word, I was like.
Yeah, you can't talk, and I think I've been to a meeting where, I can't remember who it was, whoever was leading the meeting had asked the commissioner, what do you think about this? And so it was like, you just can't talk, and I think that's what Jen's position was, you could show up, but you can't talk.
She didn't want us to show up.
She didn't want to show up, no, because.
She didn't want us to Zoom either.
Well, they'll tell you in most of the conferences that there's a difference between what the law is and what the perception to the public of the law is.
Or the interpretation by
Yeah,
the attorney.
most of the public think we're all three someplace that we're automatically violating the law, but that's not the case.
So I'll work with Representative Hunter in trying to get this in our senator. But no, that's a really good one.
It is, thank you, Bubba.
In the conference I just went to, down in Edna, I love going to those conferences because they get right down to the nitty gritty. They had the, armed response thing about school shootings and public meetings and everything. And the one thing that came out of that more than anything is the ones that had the least number of deaths were the law enforcement groups that knew who was in charge. And where they've had the most deaths are the ones where there was confusion and everything. I think there needs to be legislation that says the county sheriff or someone needs to be in charge of any time there's multi-jurisdictional issues. Now, that doesn't mean that the sheriff should be able to go and tell the police chief what to do inside the city for traffic stop. But if there's armed, if there's threats, imminent threats of death or something like that, the county sheriff should be in charge.
That would be a major effort though.
It may be a major
Something like
effort,
that.
but it would have saved,
I realize that, I'm just saying that when you're looking at laws, you need to look at, can you really accomplish what you want
I
to
think we need to
do?
look
And
at
that's, you talk about a major deal right there.
But I think there are several times that there was, 5 minutes of indecision,
Well, I agree with you, but that's. Like
that's
that's
something we need to look at.
Right.
statewide.
That's a huge issue, yeah. Got one, is this from you? Yes, sir.
Best for those that, Fort here has, copies, but for those that don't know what best is, basically it's, what the state has done, they've incentivized, companies to provide, backup power whenever the grid is in stress. And messes are basically, like, if you ever seen a Connex box, these big old storage boxes, that's what they look like when you go to the site. They look like looks like a storage box. It's full of lithium ion batteries. And what these companies do, they buy the power off the grid when it's cheap and they store it. So when ERCOT calls out, and says we need power, they sell us back into the grid for a pretty good price increase. There have been cases, not in Texas, where these have actually created hazardous conditions because these batteries start putting out toxic gases. The systems have self-contained fire extinguishers, but a lot of times they don't last long enough. So they build up pressure, toxic gases, and there have been cases when fire departments have gone there and they've actually had the doors blow off of them and injure firemen. And they've had to evacuate areas because of toxic gases. Cities can control what happens as far as that goes, because they can set ordinances and create certain areas and zones. But counties don't have any ordinances. And the thing is, I provided it's called the Basic Clean Power Org. It's a group that kind of oversees all kinds of generation like that. And they made some recommendations in 2019, what these companies should be doing as far as working with local fire departments, notifying them and things like that. That doesn't happen. There's actually one in Gregory right there at Sunset Wildcat across from the Exxon Stabic plant. And when we talked to the city of Portland, they didn't even know it was there. They thought it was just basically an electric utility station of some type.
That one is right across the street from a really nice subdivision.
Yes, exactly. And all they have on the sign, they have the number company, I think this one in particular is in Houston. They say, if there's an emergency, call 911. Well, the fire department goes there. When we talk to the local fire department there, they have no idea what's there. They have no idea about the hazards or anything associated. And the recommendations are that all local fire departments should be notified. And they should work with them to have a plan in place. And I think we're going to be getting one in Aransas County over at 188 and 1069 in the near future. And basically the county can't do anything except maybe if it's in a floodplain or something like that, we could have some kind of say. But otherwise, we have no say. Our fire departments aren't trained. They're not required to notify them. They're going to be there. So I think being the state funded and gave financial incentives to these companies to put these in place, they should offer financial support to local fire departments to have the training, whatever tools they might need to provide those. And also there needs to be a requirement that these companies that are putting them up do contact, local emergency organizations, tell them here's what we have and help them construct a plan at their expense.
Yeah.
So, and it's not, and they're ready in our area here. I mean, they're in Corpus Christi, San Francisco County, B County, we're getting one. And I know in several counties, well, they're all from the state basically, but no one is offering any kind of support to local government entities, fire departments with training or any kind of knowledge. And these things can be very dangerous. And a hazard, you need to have some kind of a hazard mitigation or evacuation plan in place wherever these are to know what that. Like local saying, there could be a subdivision there, available winds, you have to have something in place. And you can't just say 911 and you show up and not know what you're facing. It could be a very catastrophic event for people.
They also need to, and I don't think they've done, I know they talked about it, I don't think they've done it yet. They also need to have the colors and like it's on the back of trucks and stuff, have those logos so the fire departments and emergency response can know what that is.
Right.
Maybe it needs to be, everything needs to be a certain color and you need to have a certain common design. Right.
And
they are dangerous.
And when you go up, assume what's electrical, it's electrical fire, something like that, but you don't understand there's gonna be toxic gases involved. It's totally different from electrical power substations and what you're seeing in there, because those boxes are full of batteries. I did send a letter to Todd Hunter's office in August about this, but I never got any headway with this. I think.
Bob, have you talked to anybody at TAC to see if there's any statewide deal on
I emailed TAC's legal department to see if, there was any way that we could adopt a requirement for safety regulations. And specifically through chapter 233 of the local government code. And TAC responded back, they do not have a good answer, and that will be what I would ask for would be some clear statutory direction and authority.
Well, my main question is, do they have enough counties that are where they would pick up the ball and go with?
I think almost every county in Texas has, I mean, I know they have in Harris County, they have all the way through the state as far as it goes. They, you know.
It seems like maybe they could do something that in a county, it had to be approved by the court, or they had some kind of regulation.
We need some kind of legislation to give us authority.
Yeah.
Well, the fire department needs to be equipped to handle a lithium ion battery fire.
Yeah, that's.
And I've talked with local, yeah, and basically it's, and you really can't, they really can't. Something of that volume is just like when a Tesla car catches fire, basically they have to put a blanket over it, and that's all they do with these. This would be, you know, way more than they can handle, but the big thing is the probability of toxic gases.
You know,
coming into an area.
one cell phone battery went bad, brought an airliner down. You remember that big fire they had? Yeah.
But I think it's something with at state level, we need to, whether it's giving local counties authorities, but somehow these companies, one of the recommendations that the Clean Energy Association recommended was these companies contact local fire departments and let them know what they're doing. And that's a recommendation from them, but they're not government authority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nothing has been done, so I think something needs to be done with legislation to make sure there is a connection about what's
Am
going
I
on.
right that they're normally only close to a substation where they can go right into the grid?
They have, yeah, the way the law reads in Texas is the electric utilities have to allow them to hook onto the grid. But ideally, they need to be near a source where you have a main feeder line. Ideally close to a substation, because otherwise it limits the expense they have to have, because we have to build certain lines in there, then they have to pay for everything. So this, by putting them close to a substation, it limits their expense. You know, here in Rockport, they tried to put one by our emergency 24/7 emergency room.
On Pearl and Enterprise.
On Pearl Enterprise, they also approached the Baptist Church, First Baptist Church, about some property. And then I think they also approached one of our local businessmen. I found out about trying to use property all within that area, close to Enterprise and Pearl. And now this one here that they're gonna be putting, that is gonna be going in at 1069 and 188. That's close to one of the substations.
Yeah, it's actually down the road on 188
Yes.
from 1069.
Yeah, close to the trucking company.
And Commissioner, you said, you know, evacuation, but the evacuation's not like get out of this building 5 feet. They're talking about if there was one on Pearl near the hospital, you're talking about evacuating the hospital, evacuating Whistler's Cove, evacuating the backside of the country club.
But the city has authority to not allow that.
They have the authority.
It's in
We
the
have
city
no-
limit.
Right, we have no authority whatsoever, and there's no obligation of these companies to tell you, here's what we have.
Yeah.
And the only obligation they have is, like I say, they have a 911 sign, call 911 if there's an emergency. And they're not locally staffed either, they're not locally manned or anything.
So the easy way might be able to figure out how to, like the one on 188, figure out how to get the city limits to go down there.
But I don't think the
I mean,
city,
the least effort that it would take.
I don't think the city has the ordinance right
I
now.
talked to Mike, here, and I've talked to, Carl Stubbs, actually, I'll say, the chief here, and they're all, they're in agreement, something needs to be done. I know like in Harris County, and I don't know if it's the city of Houston, but Harris County, they actually have it, it's designated, they have to be in industrial zones. Close to the substation industrial zone, but like I say, in South Texas, in our area, and a lot of other adjoining counties, you know, there's really no industrial zone.
Right.
Well, that's something we ought to probably deal with TML and get them to co-sponsor something like that. For this, TML would certainly have a.
And
That's the
my
city.
position is the state, I mean, the state is doing this, so the state needs to help, you know, and it could be funded through these people that are.
Yeah.
Putting these units in.
Yeah. All right, I'll
Thank you.
work on that. I did want to notify the court that. So I'm working with the Heart Research Institute. With, on issues with the Cedar Bayou. So the contract with Mont McDonald, that expires, it just expired for the maintenance. Is that correct? For the maintenance, so like moving forward, what are we gonna do, you know, if it starts filling up? So I'm working with the Heart Research Institute, they're doing some studies and they're almost finished with the study, but we had a meeting yesterday and basically I'm gonna approach Todd or Chairman Hunter and see what we could do about getting funding for maintenance. I know we got that water restoration fund, but we're talking like we're talking big bucks, something we just can't afford. And
They might involve the NER in as far as sampling and stuff. I don't know if they're already, I'm thinking they're doing some, but Hart is the main one that's done it over the year.
yeah, and they suggested, so we have like a program, like a micro dredging program. Where when we start to see it getting filled up, we'll go and dredge it with some machinery. But the cost of the machinery, they estimated like $500,000 to $600,000 yesterday for an excavator and a special, some sort of thing that.
I'm not sure that I think that we should do it. I think the effort that we made and digging it out, the statistics have proven the benefit of it being open to most of the Texas coast.
Mhm.
It seems like that ought to be enough for somebody, a bigger government entity to pick up. Because like I say, the period of time that they were doing the sampling between when we dug it first and it closed up and everything, you know, they have some pretty impressive statistics on what goes on there, and compared to like Fort Aransas and other places, that the amount of larvae and juvenile
Oh, yeah.
is way above what comes in there. And so, you know, it's a pretty good bank. I mean, I'm a little reluctant for us to, you know, I feel like that our efforts have proved that it really needs to be open. And so to me, the Parks and Wildlife, somebody else should be.
Well, we're the permit holder, so I don't know how that plays into anything, but if they do need to do micro dredging, there's amendment that we have to go for,
Yeah.
but. I mean, we could do the work, it's just the money.
Well, and you could always contract and do that. I know when we opened it up just now from Harvey, it was close to $8 million.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, but the statistics that they've compiled over the time since we first dug it through are pretty impressive.
And I think that those are the reports that we got from Mott to give to Hunter and to use for some of their, for them to, you know, not have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
They started from there and went on. But, yeah.
Bob, are you saying it's basically, it's benefiting the fisheries for the whole coastal area?
Everything, the number, and it does, and according to their stuff, it doesn't have to be deep. It can be, even in the times where it was almost closed up.
Like 6 inches,
The
yeah.
amount of stuff really, that was something they told me, that the scientist over there, that really surprised them, that when there really wasn't much water coming through, there were still large numbers of.
It's not just benefiting Ramsey County.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you for that input.
Does GLO have anything to do with that, or just Parks and Wildlife?
No, I mean, I think we should be involved, but major funding,
Right. No, I think
I'm
that's a great
hesitant that
idea.
we should do it.
No.
There's possibly like some CDP grants and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Someone mentioned the BIL bipartisan infrastructure law grant, but I looked through all those and it's like, I don't see a connection for any of those programs, but.
Yeah. We have to remember that, with like the BIL and some of those, we still have to get that study completed before we can even qualify for any of those grants. And we're working on that, but I say we're working, we have a company that we hired to work on that.
All right, I'm gonna give the floor to the clerk, county clerk.
I was glad to see this come up because we've been dealing with, and when I say we, every registrar, local registrar for biostatistics in the state. It goes through our listserv for the County and District Clerks Association it's pretty much every week somebody's complaining about the Biostatistics Bureau. It is a mess. I have given a letter to the commissioners that I am preparing. It's not completed. It's very close. I'm hoping by next week it's completed. And I plan on sending it to every senator and representative of the state, every Supreme Court justice, our field representatives for biostatistics, and everybody in that biostatistics process. It goes, DSHS is involved, and there's a lot of people. I had to print the organizational structure on 11 by 17 to be able to read it. That's how many people are involved. It's a lot. And I am going to be sending that to everyone I have on our listserv. I have requested that every registrar also send letters to their representatives. It is in horrible shape. There are 3 instances within my office personally that has been a problem. We've probably had about 10 people since I've been in office, not quite 2 years, having issues with them. One of which was a 94-year-old woman who was born here. We have an image of her birth certificate. She can't physically get here to get her birth certificate. And so we tried to get our image to the state so that she could then get it at Hidalgo County. They refused to accept the record. They don't have this is what I was told by the Division of Biostatistics director. They don't have the people to do it. I can't imagine a state department, organization whose whole job is to handle biostatistics for the state, don't have a process in place to make sure their records are as accurate and complete as possible. That is not the only problem. I have one of my employees who's adopted. She was adopted in San Patricio County. San Patricio County has that record correct. The state has her new adopted name correct. But in the state's system that we are required, every registrar in the state is required to use, like if she were to come to our county to try to get her birth certificate, it's going to have her birth name, not her adopted name. She notified the state of that. They have no plan or care to get that fixed. The system is so broken. The legislature needs to call for an audit, top to bottom, of the Biostatistics Bureau of the state of Texas. And then we need to start fixing it because it's a broken system. I personally had, when I decided to run for county clerk, I wanted to be able to put Misty on my campaign because it's not my legal name. I have a court order from a district judge that Misty is now my legal name and should be added to my birth certificate. I have sent it to the state 3 times with $127, which is their requirement with all the documents they require, and I've been refused 3 times. They are refusing court orders when they're adoptions. Jenna Watley, one of our district judges, had a meeting with all of her area registrars to find out if we could help her. She's ordering new names of kids during adoptions with a court order and their birth certificates to be changed, and the state is refusing to do it sometimes. Sometimes they do it, sometimes they don't. These aren't simple little questions, and these are not things that I can fix. I have tried. I have called and gone up and up and up and up, and nobody cares. This is going to take legislative change and legislative look at how broken the system is to get it fixed. It's not something we as registrars can do. We've tried.
Thank you, Misty. Judge, did you have anything? Ms. Cat, did you have anything? Did you have any ideas?
No, there's nothing I can think of that Commissioner Dukenyak did mention, just that clear statutory authority for counties to be able to adopt development regulations for safety based on what the community wants. Right now, counties have to go through and literally have the state do a law for community plannings each time a county wants any type of land use regulation. And if we had a statute, some kind of direction from the state that would facilitate community planning so we can meet that requirement in the democratic process for the county to adopt what we need for safety, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, sometimes when you're doing legislation, you kind of look at, how do you think it would go statewide? I know we have things right here that the law was written where it was specific to Aransas County. And if you'll read some of the things, it has a description, like it's on the Gulf Coast, it has a National Wildlife Refuge, it has, and that way everybody else isn't against, they're not, doesn't affect them, so they're not going to fight you on it.
And I think if the emphasis is put on like that it's what the community is asking for, it's a response to new development that, we want to see green energy and the options that the state is trying to push for to make our grid more resilient. We just want it to be done safely. And I think if it's framed like that we could, find a good compromise with these vendors.
So Bob, do you know of the people that are putting those in? Is there some type of big organization behind them, or is it just groups of individuals?
They're with, a lot of these are basically little individual companies. But the only thing that ties them together is that a lot of them are members of this energy council in. But in terms of clean energy.
Well, you're looking at that, and I just saw an ad last night on a deal where a battery pack for your house. But you plug it in and charge it up. It was one on TV last night. And it was about the size of a dishwasher or something.
Oh, yeah.
And you put it in there and you charge it up. And if you have a hurricane or something, the power goes out.
Right.
You use the battery, but if they're that flammable, it's hard to imagine having one inside your house.
Well, the problems you're seeing when you have these solar panels on the homes, they have to have a battery pack, a power pack, and those power.
Yeah, I've
packs,
seen that.
They're lithium ion batteries now. But it's just on these, the thing is, they're like, as a rule, when a fire department do, they'll end up, you try to cut off oxygen to them, but then they'll cover them with a blanket, like when a car catches fire, that blanket has to stay on that car the whole time. You can never take it off because of the heat that's generated, it stays there so long. And some of the metals, when they're exposed to oxygen, they'll start igniting.
Foam doesn't work on them, I guess.
No. They can work, some of them can work temporarily, but I'm not as versed as fire department is on these, but.
Maybe we could be sealed,
Mhm.
that with lithium ion, if it's exposed to air, will continue to burn.
Exactly, and then they start putting the toxic gases and, but that's, fire department, I think they're learning more and more about the ones in the residential areas, but these here is just, it's way above any type of training, and if also, to me, the big concern is the public.
Yeah. So are substations normally close to where their houses and stuff? I mean, is there some? I mean, the one out on 188 is probably the more remote one around, other than Holiday Beach. I think we said, well, why would they put one there? But it's got to go so far to.
Now, substations, they can be placed right in the middle of a heavy subdivision, and of course, a lot of times, utilities will put fences and things to create some physical barriers.
What I was getting at, are there any of them in real remote areas? Or
These.
most of them you see, they're around where they're development.
Yeah. I actually saw one a couple of weeks ago out in west of Fall City, there across a substation that was being put in, and I saw it, and I was looking at that, looks like it'll be a mess, and I've watched it over the last couple of months, and sure enough, it's they're building one out in the middle of nowhere, but they're gonna put them where they have, they're basically placed where you have access, close access to the substation as close as you can, because there's wheeling charges involved, all kinds of different charges involved. They're trying to eliminate the cost of it.
I think I actually had one call on that one time, but the only question the guy asked me, will you give them a tax abatement? I said, I'm pretty sure the answer is no.
They're really getting a tax abatement.
Yes.
So if I could, a lot of good ideas happen, but when y'all go to the legislature, what you really need to put together is a legislative package. And this is something that, I just forwarded you something from our Defend the Guard legislative packet. And it lists out what you want, it lists out the pros of it and the cons. Because all the bills that are trying to go through the Congress this time, this is a way that you can actually take something to a rep's or senator's office. And nobody has to be up there carrying the water for you. And I think that's a key thing to getting any legislation passed.
Yeah, you have to do that, but nobody being up there, I think is you're seldom gonna get something
I
passed.
wasn't saying one or the other. I was saying
But
either.
because if you don't have a big association or a lobbyist working on it, the thought that we could go up there and because senators and representatives from other parts of the state, you know, you might talk to their aides or something, but they're not gonna, you know, it's,
And I think there's something even tacked it.
Right.
yeah, I would think your deal that, and maybe the other one that TAC might have some interest, but,
TAC has a core legislative group.
yeah.
And we could send these to them, and I know, I didn't know if Shelley was gonna speak or not,
I
but
was gonna
Shelley
give her-
from the chamber is here and. The Aransas County Day at the Capitol is scheduled for February 25th and 26th. And
And we are setting our legislative priorities now, our legislative agenda. I sent you and Pat, this came down from Todd Hunter's office that they're gonna focus on. And in the meantime, I've sent it to the Maritime Museum and the Center for the Arts and the other key players to pick out their top 5. And so we are working on it just as, you know, to condense the first page here, and then we will, so what I'm trying to say is we'll have a full packet, like Jeff is talking about, when we go, and we're hoping to all be on the same page this year instead of, and we'll be over before, so.
well, looking at that list that you sent, and I appreciate your sending that, which came from Angie, I guess, in Todd's office. Most of them were not relevant to what we're talking about today. Right.
Discussing that Thursday, tomorrow, at our meeting. So if y'all have some input that Pat and I can take to the meeting, the governmental affairs that we need tomorrow. that would be-
Well, I'm gonna take these suggestions because I think they're excellent.
That's what we're looking for.
Well, I'll bring up one that Alma did ask for us to
Okay.
think about, to the proposal of Senate Bill 404 regarding her investments. That they are proposing to change the investment pool to be managed by the comptroller or Texas Treasury only, which of course will ruin our diversification and what back in the nineties, that's who did manage it was Tex Pool by the Texas Treasury, and it was horribly mismanaged and lost millions and millions of dollars. Which is what changed
Right.
to get away from that. Now they're proposing a Senate bill to
To go back to
go
it.
back to that.
Yeah.
So the treasurer and investment officer are asking for opposition to that.
Okay.
Right, and after hearing about the vital statistics division, I don't think we want the state controlling. And the state's giving incentives to the folks that are building these battery storage units.
Yeah.
Which irritates me too. We're paying for endangering our own neighborhoods and communities. But thank you, Tina, for bringing it.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. I do have one that I'm still doing more research on. I'll have to bring it to the court at a later time. Anybody else have anything else? All right. And then I was gonna work with you on a couple of things. I don't know if I should mention them now, but about clarifying some laws that are already out there on when I'm on call or whatever, so. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Castleline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Dutton,
Aye.
Judge Garland.
Hi, we're adjourned. Thank you all so much.